Is that it? Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started. If somebody at the back could close those doors on this side, and we'll just leave the one down here open. Thank you. Okay, so welcome again, everybody. I am Heidi Perry. I'm on the board of BikeWalkNC. This session is administering local bicycle projects from idea to construction. This is a topic that I like a lot because I know most of you have seen the grants that NCDOT gives people to plan their bike plans and their bike and pedestrian plans. There are over 280 communities in our state that have these plans already, but how do we get them implemented? So here to talk about that, we have John Marshall, Transportation Planning Manager, retired but not retired from the city of Hickory, semi-retired. And we have Daniel Odom, who's with the Western Piedmont Council of Governments and also the Greater Hickory MPO. And I will now hand the mic over to Daniel.
Thank you very much. You good? Awesome. So just a brief introduction. My name is Daniel Odom. I'm the Transportation Projects Coordinator for the Greater Hickory MPO, and we are housed within the Western Piedmont Council of Governments. To give you guys a little bit of background on my position. So as an MPO in an urbanized area, over 200,000 population, we receive a set aside of federal funds from FHWA that we have directing authority over. Essentially, the take on that is, who knows better where those federal funds should go for local projects than the locals? Let's see here. So last year we did this year technically, our spring call, we did about $5 million in federal funds programmed through a competitive process where municipalities come to us with applications for bicycle and pedestrian projects. We ultimately either fund those or don't fund those. And that's a great thing that we have there. Having those federal funds available, it's very rare that we have to say no to an application. So they're highly accessible funds, readily available for municipalities to access to construct bicycle and pedestrian projects. That's the positive. The struggle there is that what we had noticed from the time this program began until roughly 2023 when I took over this program is that essentially for every 5 projects we'd fund, 2 of them would come back to us. So they'd either have major delays or be canceled altogether. So when I took over this program in 2023, that was essentially my charge. My primary goal was to figure out, how do we stop these cancellations? How do we take more projects from that great idea and actually see them through to construction and have those funds actually put into place for good use? And really the primary issue here is with these local funds, it's not an NCDOT project. Yes, NCDOT oversees the project, but it is the individual municipality's responsibility to deliver that project, which brings forward a whole host of challenges to implementing bicycle and pedestrian projects. So when I started in this position, one thing I wanted to do was look back at our cancellations and our delays and figure out what were the common causes for those delays and those cancellations. And number one is insufficient funding. And insufficiency in funding happens a lot through the LAT process, through project processes, but this is a very specific insufficiency in funding issue that I'm speaking about here, which is essentially a town submits an application, they have a good cost estimate. They go through, let's say, 60-70% of design, they get another cost estimate back, and they're $1 million short, and they haven't even gotten through design. So how do we fix that issue? Another issue we have is limited staff capacity. Specifically with municipalities with a population of, say, less than 15,000. If you're familiar with federal grant making and federal grant delivery processes, it's highly complex, it's process focused, it is difficult for municipalities with limited staff to deliver these projects. So how do we fix that issue? The third would be overlooked cost. And this has a lot to do with planning pre-application, pre-project delivery. You may have, an applicant could come forward with a good construction estimate, but they never considered the landscape of where that project's actually going. what is right-of-way going to cost you? What are utilities going to cost you? And you may have construction pegged. You may know exactly what you're going to pay there, and then have $1 million in unexpected right-of-way costs come up, and that can essentially kill the project. So how do we fix that before we ever program funds to the project? And then finally, having municipalities underprepared for cash flow demands. Federal bicycle and pedestrian funds are on a reimbursement basis. So it is the municipality's responsibility to cash flow 100% of those projects' costs throughout the process. So at any given time, you could be, as a municipality, holding 20, 30% of that total project cost in your funds waiting for reimbursement. And that's difficult when a municipality, one, they're trying to deliver the project, but they're also trying to continue services for everything else they do for their constituents at the same time. So the lesson we learned from those issues that we were seeing commonly is that planning and programming before the project has ever begun is just as important as actually having the knowledge to take it through the federal delivery process. So lesson one, and I'll be quite frank, this is also a shameless plug for our GIS folks at the COG and what they've done for us with this tool here. But one thing we were seeing is that applicants were applying for projects and they didn't have the expectation of being funded. They were submitting an application, just sort of as a one-off, here's something we'd like to do, and then 2 months later they were being told, hey, you got the money, what are you going to do with it? So we wanted to have them a tool available where they could select good projects and go into that application process with the expectation of, we are going to have to deliver this project, so we need to start preparing for that delivery now. And what our GIS folks at the COG did for us is put together a web-based GIS application and built us out a buffer-driven GIS tool where we essentially can take all of the planned bicycle and pedestrian projects in the 4-county region, Alexander, Caldwell, Catawba, and Burke counties, and we have roughly 70% of their potential project score held in that GIS tool. So at any time, any of our applicants, when this is complete, they'll be able to go in, select good projects, and know well in advance what projects that they've planned are going to be likely to be funded, submit those projects, and start planning for delivery early. And then lesson one, part two, is to educate early and often. So as I've stated a time or two before already, the federal process for delivering bicycle and pedestrian projects is complex, it's process-driven, it's difficult. There are significant cash flow requirements, significant coordination with NCDOT and FHWA to deliver the projects, and there's quite a bit of time that's required to, one, learn that process and then implement it with your project. And not all municipalities are going to have the staff that are aware of that process, aware of what they're applying for before they ever come for funds. So something that we've started doing with the Greater Hickory MPO is a mandatory pre-application workshop. So about 2 months before we start our spring call for new projects, we have all of our potential applicants come in. We take them through exactly what they're applying for, what the eligibility requirements are, what the funding scenarios are going to look like, and what they're going to be expected to carry out should they be funded. And I think that's done a lot for our region in one, just increasing the knowledge capacity of our municipalities and their awareness of the program, and making sure that when they are applying, they know exactly what they're applying for. Sort of touching again on that administrative burden and a lack of staff capacity. When I started this position in 2023, this is something that we really wanted to jump into because, yes, in the Greater Hickory region we have large municipalities, Hickory, Lenore, Morganton. We also have smaller municipalities, quite a few. And we wanted to open this funding up to those smaller municipalities so they could apply as well and reap the benefits in their respective jurisdictions. So we've sort of taken a two-pronged approach to helping these folks with LAP projects. The first is on-call assistance. So with my position, we are essentially that first call for all of our municipalities who have active LAP projects. Say they're needing help closing out a project, needing help with an RFLOI. Whatever it is, we are sort of that first line to help them get through the process. And the second thing that we've started doing, which I think will probably have the most profound impact on project delivery in the region, is taking that next step and completely embedding with those municipalities to deliver projects for them. The first sort of prong of this, on-call assistance, has already been highly successful. I feel like we're doing a good job maintaining relationships with those applicants and helping them through the project process. And then with the project management services themselves, we actually have an active project right now lap projects take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to deliver, so it'll be a few years before we know exactly how well we're able to deliver that service with that project, but we're hopeful there. The third thing that has been probably one of the most impactful is requiring realistic cost estimates. So when I took over this program, it was honestly your best guess of the funds you need for your project is what we're going to give you. And of course, that doesn't always work out. And so we'd have a lot of good projects funded, but they'd be underfunded, and they'd usually either cancel the project or come back for a supplemental request. So the way we've worked to fix that is, one, requiring an engineering cost estimate, and then tacking on a 35% contingency on top of whatever that construction estimate is. And I know 35%, that sounds like a crazy amount, but if you look at the last 5 years and the cost increases we've seen, 35% is really not enough if you're planning the complete project from the planning cost estimate. So there's still more that we're doing there to fix that, knowing that 35% contingency is not going to be enough. And that is sitting down with those applicants one-on-one, looking through the project corridor and trying to help them catch those right-of-way costs and utility costs before we ever program the project. This has been sort of eye-opening to go through and have a construction cost estimate on the table, then look through that project corridor, count up the poles you're going to be moving, consider the underground utilities that you may have to work with, and looking at those right-of-way, checking deeds, seeing what sort of right-of-way is available. And when we go through that process, it is not uncommon for us to take that original construction cost estimate plus 35% and add on 25% more in additional funds just to cover right-of-way and utility costs for a bicycle and pedestrian project. But we're confident, we've started this, we were on a second call with this process. We're confident these additional programming tools are going to help us to have more projects delivered further down the line because they're not having delays due to shortfalls, or they're not having delays with unexpected right-of-way costs, that sort of thing. So just sort of closing thoughts on the LAP program as a whole, and trying to identify ways to improve the delivery rate of our bike ped projects. Success requires early planning. If you're a municipality looking into a bicycle and pedestrian project, there has to be total commitment to the project, and you need to start planning before you ever submit an application to fund that project. Again, applicant education. If you're looking to use federal funds, start learning those federal requirements now. It will serve you very well. In our region specifically, providing administrative support, being there for those municipalities as they go through the delivery process, which John may speak a little bit more to, some of the hardships that they found. And then 4, strong cost estimating. I'm sure if there's anyone here who has worked for NCDOT or worked with NCDOT, you all are aware of how much cost estimating, and that as a practice, has become more and more important in the last 5 years as project costs have gone through the roof, and it's ultimately made just the overall transportation planning process that much more difficult. So lots to work on there, and I think a lot of this, especially when we're talking about LAP programming, federal discretionary funds, when you go through and you look at all of the things that have to be done and need to be improved to deliver projects, it can be scary to take on LAP funding, but again, LAP funds are great funding opportunities, and we're very glad to have them. And I'll now hand it over to John Marshall, and he'll show you some of the good projects that can come out of federal funding.
Thanks, Daniel. Again, my name is John Marshall. Work for the city of Hickory, and I'm supposedly retired, but apparently I failed that so far. Let's see, is this close enough? No. I don't want to hold it. I need 3 hands to do this. Turn the page for me while I talk on this. Again, today I'm going to talk about the Hickory Trail system. I think if you guys were in here for the earlier presentation, a lot of this Yachty talked about, but I'm going to cover this again. And a lot of the funding for the Hickory Trail system came from the LAP process that Daniel mentioned. So we owe the MPO a lot for the funding we've received. The first one, Let's see. Get this to work. When all the current phases of the Hickory Trail system are complete, we'll have over 12 miles that cover, a big portion of the city. And as funding becomes available, we're going to keep adding to these. And you'll see from the original bond projects, we've added quite a few additional trails to the system. And besides providing alternative modes of transportation, as Yadi mentioned in the earlier presentation, this really helped our economy over the past decade. And as mentioned earlier, we have Ole Art Walk, River Walk, Aviation Walk, City Walk, and Historic Ridgeview Walk, with additional trails added to that. Talk about federal funding. We currently have 12 projects that were either recently completed or under right-of-way construction in some form now, so we've got our hands full. If you've ever dealt with a federal project, you know how difficult this can be. As Daniel mentioned earlier, this is a competitive process to get this funding, and we've been very fortunate. And you can see, because of the funding issues, we've had to apply for these projects in pieces. Like for the Historic Ridgeview Walk, it's 2 federal projects. The Ole Art Walk, it's 2 federal projects, because we had to come in at different funding years to actually piece together enough money for that. You can also, oops, I think I went too far. There we go. We've also received additional federal funding from the Appalachian Regional Commission for a road improvement project, but the reason we talk about that road improvement project is because it does include a multi-use trail with construction. We did get a build grant, which is now a raise grant, and we were able to complete Aviation Walk with that, and also extend City Walk. And then we also got a congestion mitigation air quality grant, and that was for a roundabout. But again, the reason we mentioned the roundabout is because it does include a multi-use trail and a sidewalk with the project. The first project we'll talk about is City Walk, which Yadi did cover. But that one originally went from Lenoir University, and it stopped at 9th Street Northwest. And then we were able to extend City Walk with additional build grant funds to 11th and then up to Ole Art Walk. And that project is complete. We did get, let's see, we got a little bit over $11 million for that project in federal funding, and we completed that probably about 3 years ago. The next project, which was mentioned, was Riverwalk. That goes roughly from just east of 321 to Geithner Park. Let's see. That's up here on the river. And that one was divided into 2 projects. One was a city-funded project, and one was a federal project. The Overwater Bridge project was the federal project, and we received just over $6.5 million for that. And that project is also complete. Next project, we have Historic Ridgeview Walk. That one goes from about City Hall on City Walk and goes down through the Ridgeview community to US 70. We received a little over $8 million for that project. And that project is complete, and we're closing it out with FHWA currently. Ole Art Walk, this one is the one we probably should have built first, but the funding didn't work out that way, because this is the spine that connects everything. This one is actually 2 federal projects as well. One goes down 9th Street to Old Lenoir Road, and then down Old Lenoir Road and connects with Riverwalk. And if anybody's familiar with Old Lenoir Road, we know that it was historically a major manufacturing industrial corridor, and that is currently changing. If you travel that area, you'll see that there's more specialty shops, art-related businesses, and even a bike shop. And we received a little over $17 million in federal funding on this project. And we hope, knock on wood, hope to have this complete in the fall of '26. The next project we'll talk about is Aviation Walk. This one was funded largely by the Build Grant, and it connects with Ole Art Walk, goes over 321, which you see the bridge here. You've seen that picture of that bridge several times. Goes past the Crawdad Stadium and up to the airport entrance. And you'll see, we'll talk about in a minute, we're adding additional trails to the Aviation Walk to make connections to the ASU campus. This one we received a little over $17 million in federal funding, and this project is also complete. This is a road project, 17th Street Extension. The reason I bring this project up is because it is a road project, but it does include a multi-use trail along with it. And it's important because the ASU campus is located here, and this will connect the ASU campus to trail here, and you'll see we're going to add additional trail here to get to Aviation Walk. We did receive $4.8 million in federal funding for this project and hope to have it complete in the fall of '26. Our next project, Aviation Walk Connector. The 17th Street Extension project stops here. This picks up and goes west on Clement and then north on 19th Street Lane, and that does connect with the existing Aviation Walk here. And what that does, it connects the 17th and then connects the ASU campus and will help safely get the ASU students to the bridge that crosses over 321. We got $1.6 million in federal funding for this project, and we hope to let this project in the next month for construction. Next project is Aviation Museum Connector. There's a lot of aviation here, I know. But this one starts here where Aviation Walk stops, goes west on Clement, and then south on 21st Street Northwest. And this connects with our brand new Aviation Museum. And if you get a chance to go by there and just look at the building, it's not open to the public yet. Hank, what do you think? Open in early '26 for the public? Yeah. It's a beautiful facility. If you get a chance just to drive by there and take a look at it, and hopefully you can come back to Hickory and do a tour when it opens in early '26.
The building's finished, but they're renovating, about 30-some planes building there at the museum, and they're in the process of renovating those planes. And we don't want to open it until it's complete. The building itself.
Yep. This project, we got $2.4 million in federal funding, and we would like to let this for construction along with Aviation Walk Connector in the next month. This is another road project, 9th Avenue Drive Northwest improvements. And again, these are road improvements, but again, every time that we try to do a road improvement in the area, we try to add sidewalk, we try to add multi-use trail or something bike pedestrian related. And so what this does, this connects here at the main entrance to the airport and connects to Goat Farm Street. This says Road Goat Farm Street. And what this does is this opens up the area around the airport for future development. We got $1.5 million in federal funding for this project and hope to have it complete in the summer of '26. Sandy Ridge Road Roundabout. This is, we were talking about the congestion mitigation air quality money. And again, this is a roundabout, a road project, but we did include sidewalk and multi-use trail with that. You can see this is just a drawing, but you got sidewalk on one side, multi-use trail on the other, and that does connect with existing sidewalk system on 8th Street Drive Northeast. Sorry about, you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say 8th Street Drive Northeast, but at least with that crazy name, you know you're in Hickory. Sorry, Hank, you didn't name it. It's okay. Can you still fire me? But this, the bike ped accommodations go up to 29th Avenue here, 29th Avenue Drive, and this is a future DOT project where they're going to widen 29th Avenue Drive from Springs Road over to NC 127. And because we had it in a plan and because we requested it, DOT has agreed to add sidewalk and multi-use trail on that major widening as well, so that our new project here with the roundabout will also connect to that. We got about $6.8 million in federal funding for this project, and this one's going to take a long time for right-of-way, so we hope to let this in the summer of '27. Springs Road sidewalk. This goes from Sandy Ridge Road or 16th Street Northeast all the way to McDonald Parkway. This is a much needed segment of sidewalk that we've needed for a long time. If you walk this and observe, you'll see worn out trails on both sides of the road where people walk already. So we hope to have this let for construction hopefully next summer. And we received $2.4 million in federal funding for this project. This is an intersection crossing improvement, and this is actually the last segment of the historic Ridgeview Walk. You can see from the aerial photo, the trail currently stops here, but we want to get this connection here and a safe crossing to get to this sidewalk. What that does is it connects the Ridgeview community with a neighborhood Walmart grocery store. It's very important to get there. I mean, there is no grocery stores that anybody can walk to in this area, so that's very important. We've got $1.2 million in federal funding for this project, and we hope to start construction in September on this month. The last project we just recently got funded through the MPO is the Kenworth Sidewalk Connector. That connects NC 127, connects a nice gap here with a lot of residential areas in the Kenworth neighborhood, and eventually will create a safe connector to the Kiwanis Park. We've got $2.8 million in federal funding pending NCDOT Board of Transportation approval. And we would like to start preliminary engineering and design in the spring of '26 on this project. This is the last project I have to talk about. If we have time, there's another topic I'm going to talk about, but I think Daniel and I can probably take questions now. And if we have time, I was going to talk about some new guidelines that DOT has developed over the past year. I don't know how many of you are aware of these NCDOT trail encroachment guidelines that DOT developed. Of course, you guys, you were on the committee. So anyway. I guess we can take questions now for a few minutes.
I wanted to ask about the trail that is adjacent to the railroad. Is there, it's pretty interesting how close you got that trail to the railroad.
We have a lot of trails close to the railroad. Which one?
If you have well, yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
So that, I'm glad you brought that question up, because, and John can tell more about this, but when we first started this project, the railroad said no. Not just no, but an emphatic no. They said, you mean you want to put a walking, pedestrian, biking trail parallel to our railroad track? And we said, yeah. And they said no. And and that went on for, what, 2 years? Two years. The final thing that got it passed was this. We convinced them that, right, the way it was, you could cross the railroad track anytime you wanted to at any location you wanted to. So we said it's not safe the way it is now. So we finally convinced them. If you notice on any of the pictures, you'll notice there's a barrier now, and you can't cross the railroad track anywhere you want to downtown. You have to cross at designated areas. So the final, when we finally got to the right person, we said, look, this is ridiculous. You're telling us it's not safe, and what we're going to do is much safer. So I think that was the final thing that got it through. Is that correct, John?
No, I think it was annoying them for 2 years.
Well, I'm good at that.
Dale,
Sorry
it
to
wasn't
interrupt.
easy. They actually, I don't know anybody that's ever done this, but we actually purchased property from Norfolk Southern to put that trail in. So they actually sold us some of their right-of-way. And we also had an interesting time with a short line railroad in that same area.
Were they reasonable?
After a couple years, yeah.
You got to wear them down.
Price-wise?
Yeah, and I will tell you that the original plans called for a sidewalk. Maybe it was a 10-foot sidewalk, which they're okay with sidewalk, but as soon as they saw multi-use trail beside the railroad, that's when they said no. So.
With that second to last project you said was crossing US 70. So I was just wondering how you managed to coordinate that. Is that DOT that's doing the design, or are y'all doing the design, or
Well,
like
originally
who's
it
in
was
charge of that?
originally it was a spot safety project that DOT designed, and for one reason or another, the project just kept falling through the cracks. And so we went back, and the city went back and got additional funding from the MPO and made it a lap project. So the city's in charge of it, but then we took DOT's design and had it redesigned again.
So DOT was okay with that. I guess I've been told by our city planners that, like, with DOT US or highway roads, they don't. Sorry, with the DOT highway roads, they don't really have any control over that. That's really all up to DOT.
Well,
So
I mean,
have-
DOT had to approve it, but they started the original design and we modified it slightly, but they had made the original design and they approved ours.
So if they hadn't started that original design, you would have had to go to them first and said, hey, we want to do this, and get their approval and all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That baby come out?
Yes.
Congratulations. Wow. Congratulations. Bravo. I was just wondering, it's amazing what you're achieving here in Hickory. And one thing, I double your retirement salary and bring you down to the East Coast Greenway. But seriously, how are y'all getting this done so effectively? What would you say are a couple of the qualities, the ways you're able to focus your staff and really working with elected leaders to move these projects forward so quickly?
Well, I think it started, what Yadi was talking about earlier about had a progressive city council, mayor, the citizens voted for the bond, which they are, that gave it momentum. And ever since we've started working on these bond projects, we just try to keep that momentum going because we just keep adding more projects to it. And city council, Hanks, they've been very supportive, and the citizens have been very supportive, so we just keep that momentum going as long as we can.
But from my perspective, if you don't invest in your community, you can't expect your community to invest in you. So that was really our first step. We realized that we can no longer just do infrastructure. If all you're doing is water, sewer, fire, and that type of thing that traditional everybody does, if that's all you're doing, I'm telling you, that's not going to work. You got to go above and beyond that, and you've got to be innovative, and you've got to have amenities, and you've got to. There are risks involved, but you got to take calculated risk. I'll just say that.
Thanks. I really like the way you broke it into pieces, and each piece seems to have a functional attribute to it. Can you share a little bit? And you talked about this one was 1.6 million. This was 4. Can you talk about how that funding happened from the Greater Hickory MPO? Was it a big tranche of federal funding, which they determined would go into these projects and that would be matched by bond funds, or did the project start smaller and go up to the MPO and that went to federal?
Well, what happened
how did that work?
originally was the city passed the $40 million bond referendum, and that was originally going to fund the City Walk and River Walk and other projects. And we said, well, let's take part of that bond funding and use it as a 20% match on the federal funds, because the MPO had some funds that had built up over the years hadn't been applied for. So we were able to hit it pretty hard there for a couple years. I mean, is it okay if I tell you how much money we've gotten from you guys in the past 5 years? I mean, probably like in the past 5 or 6 years, we've got probably over $65 million from the MPO. So, and then we got the RAISE grant, and we've got a couple of smaller ARC projects.
Anybody else? I got my mic.
Since we're talking about the MPO, I was curious how you do that support program. A couple of questions. Is that just built into the member dues there and they can take advantage of that? Did you have to restructure how you do things there, hire a new person to provide that support?
Yeah, so it's actually funded through CRISA funds. So after COVID, there was a set aside of CRISA funds that were really for transportation specifically. So those are the funds that we've obligated and used to pay for what is my position, which started in 2023 as the projects coordinator. So brand new position, brand new role, and we've just sort of been building it out for the last 2 years.
Will that continue past the life of the CRISA funds?
I hope so.
I hope so. Sure.
And he's learned a lot from the city of Hickory watching our mistakes.
Anybody else?
Barry Green Jr., Transit First CLT. My question is, I'm down the road in Charlotte, and we're up against a pretty big tax referendum to fund some pretty cool things, hopefully. But I'm curious on how you found that balance, right, with something like a road widening project and a sidewalk or a multi-use path, because that's a lot of the tension that we have currently. You know, even though it's been very cut and dry about where these funds will go, folks feel like it'll just be full with bike lanes and transit and cars will kind of get left behind. But can you talk about that balance and how you kind of ease residents from knowing that this will be a balance amenity for everyone?
I guess, like I said earlier, with every road project, every road improvement, we look at try to add, bike or pedestrian facilities to that. And so far, we've had, tremendous support for that. We really haven't run up any, objections to it yet. Just like now we might, when we take somebody's front yard because of an extra, 20 feet because of a sidewalk or something. So I guess we may get a little bit of pushback, like when I was talking about the 29th Avenue Drive widening, that DOT project, because we are taking so much right of way in there. Just because of that, you get some pushback. But people really are supportive of the bike ped, facilities around here so far.
Question for Daniel. A lot of us in this room have spent a lot of time trying to get the local match back for federally funded projects to get the state to provide the local match. I'm curious, especially with your smaller municipalities, how much of a barrier is it for them to even undertake these projects because they don't have a local match?
It's a significant barrier. Especially when you put it in the context of how much federalizing a project increases the cost of that project. When we're out meeting with municipalities, talking through what a project would look like, and they hear that 20% local match and what that's going to be off of the project, it's a significant barrier. So we've started talking, having preliminary discussions on what we can do to lessen that match burden, one statewide and in the region.
And also, if I'm correct, and I was just talking to Avery, the Western Piedmont Council of Government, I think, added a position. Was that your position? Okay, added that position just to address that, because we're the largest city within our municipality, and we did hear some pushback. I mean, obviously we got John, and everybody tries to steal John, but the Western Piedmont Council of Government added a position just to help the smaller communities, the smaller municipalities, to be able to have that resource and to be able to have a portion of what John does specifically for us, because he worked on it full time just for the city of Hickory. So by adding that position, it helped other municipalities that couldn't perhaps afford to do that to be able to have that same information and to have those guidelines and to have that expertise. So I think that was a huge move on the part of the Western Piedmont Council of Government to be able to do that.
Can you talk about the process of adding his position as a?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it's not just my position. There's so many people that work on these projects, and that's, Dale, that's probably one of the bigger issues for these small towns is just staff. Because, I mean, we have a construction manager now because we have so many projects under construction. I usually work on projects through PE and design through right of way, and we have a construction manager usually takes most of the burden after that. So, I mean, most smaller municipalities just can't pull that off.
Yeah, I'll say, as Mayor Guest previously said, we had several times that people mentioned to us, hey, we can't go from just being a regular land use planner to overnight knowing all the hoops and regulations that go along with federal funding. So we were hearing all the time, we need help with this. And so when the CARISA funds rolled around, the first thing I noticed, I'm Avery Ritchie, I'm with the Greater Hickory MPO. But the first thing I noticed was, hey, there's no match required for this. This is amazing because, we have to approve our dues every year, and we didn't want to increase the local match. This funding actually is obligated until September of 2029. So we thought this would be a great opportunity to go ahead, reserve this in our UPWP. So I had to do a UPWP amendment for like FY23 and FY24, and now it's just automatically in our UPWP. And we just set it up as like a separate, we kind of had to set it up as a separate invoice. So I do the CARISA invoices, plus then I do the like regular 5303 and other FHWA invoices. Once we got board approval, policy board approval, TAC, TCC approval, we were able to, really show the value in this position. Yeah.
Hank over here. Hank's like Phil Donahue.
That's all right.
If anybody's old enough to remember Phil Donahue.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Eric. I'm with Trips for Kids Charlotte in Charlotte, North Carolina, more of a community organization. With all of this infrastructure going in there through these grants and funding, is there any portion of it that's allocated for education and great engagement for the adjacent communities that are seeing some of this infrastructure coming in?
I will say through the process of our some of our projects, we have public meetings and invite the public in to see that, and comment on these projects. So beforehand is the education there, maybe not as much as once the project is selected. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I just didn't know if there was like more opportunity beyond that to just, their adjacent communities to engage them with the greenway system so that more people can ask for those things.
I mean, we have had, like Beth right here, she, she's led a charge with the adjacent Burt County, and we've had a lot of coordination with trails, going into Burt County through that education. So I think the surrounding counties are wanting to connect to us, and we would love to connect to them. I mean, where's Eric at? There he's back there. We'd love to connect with the city of Conover, and we've tried. It's just right now it was cost prohibitive just to try to get that far.
Anybody else?
John, you all are doing a safety action plan now? Or
That's correct.
Is that helping? How is that being integrated into projects that you all are planning now? And I'm going to ask a second question, which is any lessons learned, and Daniel's presentation was great, but for getting projects done faster, quicker, cheaper?
Don't ask for federal money.
Oh.
No, the first question, the safety money, we actually piggybacked on, because our plan is not complete, but the MPO was further along and had a plan, so we were able to piggyback on their safety plan, and we've already applied for a grant for a sidewalk project out on Catawba Valley Boulevard and intersection improvements there at the community college, if you're familiar with that area. But no, lessons learned, you never put enough money in there for right-of-way, no matter what you do.
given the sheer number of the paths that y'all have put in, it really is amazing, everything you're doing. Do you have any data about how it's changed behaviors? Like how many, like are people driving less, walking more, you know, cutting car trips, that kind of thing, just because they have so many more options?
There's a lot of people using the trail. I can't say how many cars are being taken off the trail now. We are because we did have a build grant. We are having to monitor that for 5 years. So we actually have to put cameras out to measure the amount of vehicles versus bike ped on that trail for 5 years. So we may pick up some additional information from that.
And I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, because there are probably people that are driving less and using our trails more, but it's invited more people to our community, so that's probably skewed those figures some, I would think, because we are getting more populated because of the interest and because of all the activity and the amenities and everything that we're doing. So I don't know, that's an interesting question, but I'll bet there's some problems with those statistics on that.
The trails are heavily used, but like I said, unfortunately, some people drive in to walk on the trails.
They do, from other counties. Yeah. Yeah. Someone else?
Thank you. As John said, my name is Beth Hiley, and I'm with Burke River Trail Association, and we have benefited from both of these speakers. First with Daniel's position, because the smaller municipalities in Burke County may only have a clerk or only a manager, and with Daniel there, I've been able to take him into some of the smaller towns to talk about the LAP funding and how to proceed. And that's where we run into the issue of that 20% match and how much cash flow they're going to have going forward. And so that's made us talk about what kind of fund could we set up to help these municipalities. So it's been a game changer, because I've been working on this, I don't know, 6-7 years, and finally starting to learn the process, and then seeing the success of Hickory. I mean, that's just been great, how to leverage funds and see it work and see the success it brings. So yes, we in Burke County want to hook up to Hickory and be successful there. So it's just great to have the communication and so many groups working together to connect communities.
I'm just wondering if you know if there are other MPOs in North Carolina that have positions like yours.
That's a great question. I know of a few that I think are starting a similar aspect to their LAP programs, bringing in somebody to run those. So I think it's if there's not already positions like mine out there, they're coming soon. Yeah. Yeah, Tristan, what about you? They're working on it.
I highly recommend it. Anyone else? I don't know where we are on time. Oh, okay. Is there any other questions? We don't want to cut anybody off.
I think we still have like 5 minutes, maybe.
Okay, how long is this?
Yeah,
We have 10 minutes.
I want to go through it really fast.
Okay, all right.
Put it back right here. Again, these recently DOT had developed trail encroachment guidelines, and I know trail groups over the years have tried to put trails along DOT roads, and it's been difficult because most. What's your answer? Always no, or hell no, or never. Sorry to put you on the spot, Andrew. Yeah, so the purpose of the guidelines is to assist the applicants in the permitting process and to actually educate DOT staff on how to get through this process. This document, like I said, was developed through a collaborative effort. We had people like Beth and Andrew on the committee. We had trail advocacy groups. We had state parks involved, FHWA, and DOT. And I'm probably leaving somebody off, but. I guess the main thing you need to know is if you want to put a trail in DOT right away is to coordinate quickly and early with the district engineer. That's where the process starts. Also the permit applicant needs to be aware if you're crossing multiple DOT jurisdictions. For example, City of Hickory is in 3 highway divisions. So we're in 11, 12, and 13, so you never know. Just going up 321, you're in 3 different highway divisions. And just because you do the consultation doesn't automatically give you the right to build this trail. So there's going to be a lot of work and negotiation in the process. The trail sponsors must be local government agency, state or federal agency, or tribal government, or, this is the big one, or an accredited land trust or conservancy. That really opens it up for the process. Nonprofits can apply, or private entities may participate, but you have to have a third-party agreement with a local government or accredited land trust or conservancy. Of course, the encroaching party is they're going to assume the financial responsibility for construction and maintenance of the trail if it's put in DOT right away, and you may be required to provide a bond. And I think the big thing is if you've worked with DOT in the past, you don't know where the right-of-way is. You can go to the county GIS and it shows you having 60 feet or 100 feet, but until you start looking into it, that right-of-way may not be there. So it's going to be up to the encroaching party to figure out where that right-of-way actually is. And sometimes that's quite a task. The trail placement, it can be in the clear recovery zone. That's still some negotiation we're trying to work out there. But of course, they want that trail as far away from the travel lane as possible. And then of course, if the trail is for recreational purposes or shared use path, you have different standards. Design must prioritize accessibility and follow federal and state standards with, of course, some flexibility can be allowed when justified. At grade and structure crossings must follow detailed design protocols to ensure public safety. Encroachment permits will be submitted online, and it'll be required detailed construction and design documentation. A PE seal will be required for roadway crossings or modifications to DOT structures. Of course, the trail construction has to comply with all applicable laws, ordinances, and regulations. The encroaching party shall provide details concerning the construction of the trail. And still working this out as well, but if there's volunteers involved with working on the trail, there's going to be additional training required for those volunteers, specifically, work zone safety. Maintenance, the encroaching party is going to be responsible for the maintenance for the trail in DOT's right-of-way. And if the structure is deemed a bridge by FHWA standards, then that bridge will have to be inspected every 2 years, just like a DOT bridge is now. The encroaching party shall be responsible for locating utilities within the project as well. Of course, the encroaching party is going to be responsible for all environmental permittings, including SHPO. And let's see, first off, if you work with your district engineer and they say, no, we can't make this work, then you have the opportunity to take that to the division engineer and make your case there. And if you can't get the division engineer on board with your trail, then there's going to be something called a right-of-way trail encroachment committee that is set up by the Secretary of Transportation, and you'll have an opportunity to appeal to that committee. And then, of course, if the permit is approved, DOT shall issue a signed encroachment agreement for the project, including any required revisions, changes, or modifications. And then, of course, we're always going to have special cases. If it's a STIP project, oops, I'm on the wrong one there. Did I skip that one? No. Okay, if the project trail is not included in an adopted plan, then you're going to have to obtain letters of support from that jurisdiction. And also a big one for DOT is trailheads are not permitted as a primary use in DOT right-of-way, but they will review it on a case-by-case basis. And then special cases requiring additional review. Mostly anything that doesn't fall within these guidelines are going to have to be a special case and be reviewed, and that's going to be reviewed by the division engineer and working with the chief engineer's office to try to decide this. So this is relatively new. It hasn't really been tested yet, so any of you trail groups that want to be the guinea pig and approach DOT with this, we'll see how it works out. I think we're probably out of time, but are there any questions on this encroachment guidelines?
So this may be a semantics thing, but with the complete streets policy that's already in place, I feel like some of these things with a little bit of tweaking would be required under the complete streets policy without all this.
Well, if you read these guidelines, it references complete streets in there many, many times.
So they're basically putting the responsibility on us?
I mean, it's up to the encroaching party to provide a lot of this information, yeah.
In mentioning maintenance, I was wondering in Hickory, developing the Hickory Trail system, how the city is sort of planning for long-term maintenance and what department that falls into and how much advanced budgeting the city does to anticipate that.
We've been talking about that since we started the process, and it's really up to our public services department. And so far, our trails haven't needed a lot of maintenance yet because they're fairly new, but it's coming. And yes, we've been planning for that for several years, budget-wise and staff-wise more importantly.
And safety, getting fire and rescue and having vehicles that'll get to these locations, because obviously most of these locations are kind of off the beaten path, so we consider that as well.
I think we're good. Oh, one more. You're getting your exercise today.
Yeah, that's okay. I had to leave the room I had to go check on the baby. Is this on? Oh, it's not. Good. It's good now. Okay. Who was that?
You talked about different encroaching parties and land trusts. I'm curious what the diversity of different encroaching parties, counties, municipalities, land trusts.
I mean, what was the question?
What type of encroaching party? You said the land trust opens up things to different. Are there land trusts that are being formed in order to do?
I don't know that there's additional land trusts forming for this very reason, but there's a lot of accredited land trusts in North Carolina, like East Coast Greenway, that it will benefit. Yeah, Foothills.
I live in a city that has a couple designated bike trails, which are comprised of a combination of multi-use paths. Some of them, the multi-use paths do approach an intersection and continue on the other side. Some of the multi-use paths stop short of the NCDOT thoroughfare, but continue
along a sidewalk, or they put the trail on the street. Does the NCDOT have a policy for signage on those highways as they approach those trails? In the case of Wilmington, we have a heavily used trail, and the NCDOT has a sign that's just share the road. There's no indication to a driver that they are crossing a designated trail for pedestrians and bicyclists. So.
In these particular guidelines, it does mention signing as it meanders, across different right-of-way. And DOT does have already crossing standards. They have a document already for that, and that does address signage as well. I mean, I can't tell you specifically what it says. I cannot. Right.
So I don't remember the firm who got the contract, but I went to a conference where DOT has contracted with a company who is going across the state and looking at current signage there and developing all the different types of signage that are needed. That you've been on a wide shared path and you're getting down the sidewalk and you're going to have a car coming. What does all that signage look like for everybody? So it's in the process. I'm sure it's going to take a long time, and where's the funding coming from? But it is being looked at, like what's happening all across the state in rural areas, urban, whatever. So it's being worked on. I just don't remember who, when, and where.
Oh, please come to Wilmington. Anybody else? How much time we got?
We're over.